introduce myself. Funny story, real story. I am at a fraternity when the majority of the audience is ladies. Flip side of that, as a male, I received a scholarship from a sorority when I was an undergraduate studying to become a teacher. So I guess it really goes both ways. We know the demographic of teachers. Most are K-12 speaking women. So with that in mind, today, first I want to thank Bianca for inviting me to talk with you. I was talking with Anthony over here. You guys meet every other week. You have a social. Damn, you're busy, right? And so I appreciate the packed audience. In my mind, I was preparing for about 25 people. And so you far exceeded 25. And to be quite honest, you're the largest. Now I know what a psychology professor feels like teaching in a large auditorium. Typically, I teach in DeGarmo with 25 students or less. So today, my talk to you is entitled, If Knowledge is the Key, What is the Lock? My name is Nicholas Hartlep. I'm an assistant professor here at ISU, and I teach in the Educational Administration and Foundations department. I'm a professor of Educational Foundations. Anyone, feel free to answer. Take a guess how old I am. Just shout it out.
28.
I heard 28 louder though, so raise your hand if you think I'm older than 28. Okay, keep your hands up. 29? 30? 31? Okay. I'm 29. I'm a Sagittarius, so November I'll be turning 30. I'm glad to say goodbye to my 20s. They were a rough decade for me. With that in mind, raise your hand if you were born in the 1990s. Keep them up. Okay, now, if you were born in the 80s, raise your hand. Okay. Now, was it 89? Okay. So now I know where we're at, right, in terms of generationally speaking. All right. So, no surprise, I'm a young man. I'm married. I have 3 young girls. So all of this is important in my teacher identity, right? I'm a heterosexual. I'm a Christian. If you haven't guessed by my face, I'm Korean. I speak Spanish. I have international experience. And so I'll talk to you why all of this is important in today's talk. So let's begin. So I'd like to play a background song for you. I believe it's 4 minutes. And this will set the stage because I've been in your seats and sitting through very boring, dry, lecture-type presentations, especially at 8:30 at night. No one wants that. So I'll play this song for you. I'm not sure the volume setting, so just be prepared to blast your ears. I'll try to adjust it.
Okay, let's go back to the summer of '82. It's a warm night in the middle of June. Downtown Detroit, Motor City, recession time, not looking pretty. In a town built on automobiles, companies pulled out as attention filled. Chrysler, Chevy, Ford, them hurt most with the working man. But in the darkness, a few highlights. Vincent Chin was a regular guy, 27 years old with a regular life. Looking forward to his wedding night. Morning Canton, moved with his parents, working as a trash man and anticipating marriage. Called his best friends and they went to party. This one night would change a country. Got a pound of man, a stepson, left a dingy little house, went out to have fun, forgetting their trouble. The night was young, headed to a club and started getting down. Socked into the gym and started mocking. He blamed Japan for the industry's problems. Jim was Chinese, it didn't matter a bit. He was just a dumb teen who could nip. Now they fought in the bar, Vincent walked away but had got his car. Along with his son, started searching the streets. Strapped at that below the seat, and found Vincent getting something to eat. Waiting till he finished, walked onto the street. They jumped in fast and ran on the concrete. At the hospital, doctor tried some surgery. And died days later, instead of a wedding, it's getting down to a prayer. Tragedy took the place of celebration. Meanwhile, Evan's not waiting. fight, but the federal case stops at the finish line. As he gets off and doesn't pay a dime, Vincent Chin's mom moves back to China, disgusted at how America treats the kind. When anti-Asian sentiment was high, and in a city where they blamed one guy, racism caused the system to fail, and a citizen dies because he's an Asian male. And the judge looks at the two killers and says, that shit's lame, but if it's Vincent Chin, it's still the same. If it's Vincent Taylor, it's still the same. If it's Vincent Wynn, it's still the same. No distinctions were made. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's the Asian American struggle. We group ourselves together to stay within the bubble. But don't forget, this is how America sees us. Rest in peace, Vincent Chin still needs us.
So, why do I play this? Well, you'll see in a moment. Okay. So, one thing I think is very important for us to know as teachers is that we're in the industry of educating people. But oftentimes, we need to educate ourselves about issues, about topics. So let's take a poll. Raise your hand nice and tall if you have heard of Vincent Chin ever in your lifetime. Okay. I saw a couple of hands. Where did you hear about Vincent Chin?
Here in one of my education classes.
In one of your education classes? Okay. Do you know what happened in the Vincent Chin incident?
Pretty much he was just like doing something and then.
Well, he was at a strip joint, preparing as some men do before they get married, bachelor party or whatever you call it, in Detroit. And then after he left this gentleman's club, he was murdered. But a few things about the case really stand out to me as an Asian American. One is the two white men that killed him never went to jail. Second, the details of the murder. There were some off-duty policemen, I believe, that witnessed it. He was killed by a baseball bat to his brain. There were actually pieces of his brain on the concrete. Now, there's some symbolism in that because in America, baseball is America's pastime. So the fact that this Chinese-American young man was murdered at the hands of two white men with a baseball bat and never really went to jail, right? So it's eerily similar to the Trayvon Martin case to me. But why do I say this? Well, we need to educate ourselves about things that we might not know, because then we can impart that knowledge onto our students. Now, I came to Illinois State University, and in my job description as a professor, these were some of the things that stood out to me and what I brought to ISU. Diversity and equity in education is something that I feel strongly and passionately about, and that's the topic of today. Critical race theory is an area of scholarship that I study. I'm a student of. Teaching for social justice. The model minority stereotype. That is what I conduct research on. And the model minority stereotype is a stereotype of Asian Americans. Among other stereotypes is this idea that Asians are really intelligent. Now, let's see. If you're Asian and you're a teacher here, pre-service, raise your hand. Okay, we have a few. Now, if you look at the data nationally, Asian Americans or Asian teachers are very underrepresented in K-12 classrooms. And that's just a fact. The statistics show that. So I really encourage my mentees here at ISU who are Asian American to pursue teaching as a field. My past as an urban teacher, so I'm really interested in urban teacher preparation. Raise your hand if you intend to teach in an urban space, a school, an urban school. Okay. Raise your hand if you're going to teach in a school that could be classified rural or suburban. Okay. Raise your hand if you didn't raise your hand for those two. Okay. Because really the classifications of schools, right? Urban, rural, or suburban. International education, as you will shortly see, and teacher disposition. And in fact, in a few days, I'll be going to Korea for an educational conference. So I'm very much into international education and international travel. Okay. So the story of Nicholas begins in Ecuador, really, because that's where I student taught. Anyone intending to student teach in an international setting? Okay, great. I'd be interested to hear where you're anticipating teaching. So the folks that raise your hand, can you shout out where you want to teach?
England.
England. Okay. England again? Any non-Englanders? Okay. England. Wonderful. So here's a picture of the Ecuadorian school I was at. It was an international school, bilingual. So, ya que yo puedo hablar en español, enseñé algunas clases en español en Ecuador, en Sudamérica, y fue, ¿cómo se dice? Bonita y fue divertido. Entonces, so this was a bilingual school, very picturesque. Here's the actual website, it still exists. I'm going to give Bianca my PowerPoint, so if you want to look at any of the material that I've shared today, you can view it. So, I student taught in Ecuador and I came back to the States, and like all of you will do, you'll try to find a job, right? Now, this is part of my talk for you today. I was in DeGarmo on the elevator coming over here, and like all good teachers, we think of ways to tie in everyday stuff into our teaching. And I saw this thing. It's from the Career Center here at ISU. It says, what are average starting salaries? Here are what new graduates are being offered in these fields. Now, they don't have education. I need to contact Career Center and like, yo, we're a large population here. You need to get our data on you. But education, I don't know. Does anyone know currently in the field what is the average incoming Bachelor of Science in Teaching?
Yeah,
42.
Yeah, okay. She's going to look it up. So right here you have business, 45K, economic, 46K, 48K for accounting, computer science, engineering. Right? Engineering is the field, right? Let me tell you the truth. As someone with a PhD, if you go to CPS, Chicago Public Schools, you will make more money than I do as a professor. And we'll talk about economic justice in a second, as it relates to your futures. But so from there, I was looking for a job, and I did an induction and mentoring program. It was a program in Rochester, Minnesota. If you've heard of Mayo Clinic, that's where Mayo Clinic, one of Mayo Clinics, is located in Rochester, Minnesota. I taught in Rochester Public Schools for 1 year, and the summer before I got into my classroom, I did graduate coursework. I did graduate coursework all while teaching that first year, and then I did graduate coursework on the other half of that school year, and I got my master's. Now, why would that make sense economically for me to right away get my master's degree? Someone, you're all bright.
Professor.
Now, why would that increase my pay?
You're more qualified. It makes you more qualified.
Okay. So lanes and steps, right? Have you heard of lanes and steps on a pay schedule? So you get, for seniority, you get money, but then also with your credential. And so it made sense. And this program really was aimed and geared to recruiting diverse teachers who would come into Rochester, teach, and they incentivized. It was like, look, you'll get your master's degree, all expense paid, right? But the kicker was, I didn't collect a salary per se. I was paid $14,000 my first year to teach. Right? $14,000, right? But I had my master's degree. Okay, we'll get to that. To honor time, I'm not going to go to each website, but this was the school I taught at, Benjamin Franklin Elementary School, 2nd grade. From there, I finished my master's and I said, look, you know, I really, at some point, I want to exit the classroom. I mean, I want to become a professor because I enjoy doing research, I enjoy learning. You know, why not enter a PhD program? And so this is where I landed, Hartford University School for Urban Exploration. Now this is a real legitimate picture of Hartford. If you were to go down, let's see, so this corner of the school, the street, if you go down that street, you would walk right into the College of Education building. So this was very much like a lab school. Metcalf, U-High, like we have, is very much similar. And so I was fortunate to be able to teach there, right? I had parked there, and then I would moonlight as a doctoral student. That only lasted for a year because I received money. I was, you know, lured, basically. They said, look, why don't you just finish your PhD really quick, we'll pay for it all, and life will be good. I said, well, you know, do it and get my PhD within 3 years, or take 10 years to do it. You know, I was like, no, I'm gonna take the money and run. So I did. So this is part of this. We've arrived now at the point where I hope I can impart some information on you. It's not theoretical, it's practical, and all of you, I'm sure, at some point of time, if you haven't already, have grappled with this. I know there's too many people for you all to see it, but I'm going to pass around my real portfolio, my real teaching portfolio. This got me a job, so there's something good in it, hopefully. So one thing that I'd like to share in my autobiography, or my testimony, if you want to use that term, is that as a classroom teacher, there is so much that I wish I could have learned in a college classroom in a school of education, but I didn't. And that's not because colleges of education cannot do it, or they're bad. It's just that in many ways, you learn through experience and doing. With that being said, before I got into Rochester Public Schools, like I mentioned in that induction mentoring program, I had about a 6-month period of time because I was a graduate in the fall. Any people that currently, your trajectory, you'll graduate in December, anticipating, right? Well, when you graduate, you're not going to be able to get a full-time classroom. I mean, you might get a long-term substitute position, someone maternity leave, you might day-to-day sub, but the school year has already begun, so you're going to have to wait for the following semester, school year. So that's what happened to me. And I was really frustrated. I was frustrated because I thought I was not prepared, right? I was going to long-term substitute positions. I get a 3-week gig. I get a 5-day gig. I would day-to-day sub, get $100 a day, right? No health insurance, right? All this. And I was really upset. But it was during that time that I took some professional development. Has anyone heard of SEED? National SEED Project? If you haven't, this would be a lovely thing for Kappa Delta Epsilon to look into for you. But SEED is a national project, and it stands for Seeking Educational Equity and Diversity in Education, right? And it was there that I learned a lot about curriculum, why colorblindness is problematic, because up until that point I was colorblind. And I learned about critical consciousness. In Milwaukee, as a second-year teacher in an urban school district, I came across Rethinking Schools. Anyone heard of Rethinking Schools? Raise your hand if you've heard of Rethinking Schools. Wow. Okay, get on the web, Rethinking Schools. Rethinking Schools is based out of Milwaukee, and it is a practitioner-oriented magazine dedicated to issues of social justice. It's written by teachers for teachers. I think of it as the FUBU, for us, by us, for teachers, right? It was also there, and also here in Chicago, that I came across Catalyst. Anyone heard of Catalyst? Okay. Catalyst, again, get online. It's similar, but different. Think of Rethinking Schools for Milwaukee, Catalyst for Chicago, right? Lastly, what I learned was, and if you remember, my PowerPoint slide shared what I'm interested in. Issues of social justice. Right? So international education, I student taught. I was just interested. Urban teacher, I learned, I was interested in Milwaukee. Model minority stereotype, as an Asian man, that's my research area. And the Vincent Chin, I'm interested in that thing. Teaching for social justice, rethinking schools. Critical race theory, I learned while I did my PhD. Diversity and equity in education, like I said, right here, it's learned. Social justice is learned. So the mindset of a social justice-oriented teacher, the attitude, the actions, and behavior. Now this is where I'd like to really point you to. If you don't have a mentor in education, you need one. Because this job can be very tiresome and it can be very lonely, especially as a first year. And so I would really encourage you to check out Rethinking Schools, Catalyst, and any other type of progressive education association, and to find a mentor. Just